Join us Monday, December 15th, 7 p.m. inside the Grand Goldsmith Theater at the Wallace in Beverly Hills for Soul of the Holidays, benefiting survivors of the Altadena Eaton Canyon Fire. For ticket information, just log on to ticketsatthewallace.org. That's ticketsatthewallace.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580 and the Black Freedom Fund.
Someday at Christmas, then won't be boys playing with bombs like kids play with toys. One warm December, our hearts will see a world where men are free. Someday at Christmas, there'll be no war when we have learned what Christmas is for. When we have found what life's really worth, there'll be peace on earth. Someday all our dreams will come. Someday the world will men are free. Maybe not in time for you and me, but someday at Christmas time.
KBLA Talk 1580. That's my favorite Christmas song. Well, that one and This Christmas are my two favorites. And number 3 would be Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC. All right. I hope you're having a happy holiday season. And I am excited to have my friend and former colleague on the radio with me this morning. She's America's go-to expert, host, and commentator on legal, political, women's, children's, and celebrity issues. And, of course, a passionate advocate for young people with disabilities, specifically autism. She's one of the country's leading influencers shaping media today. And you're actually an online influencer as well, an internet and IG influencer with millions of followers. Attorney Areva Martin, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Thank you for that generous and very kind introduction. I love it, and I love you, and so happy to always be on your show.
Yeah, happy to have you in. It is the holiday season. It's a time when people reflect back, and we do this weekly Freedman Fridays reparations segment. And when I look back at the year of 2025, your work in Palm Springs is one of the things that makes me smile, gives me hope, and I look at it as one of the victories and during perhaps the toughest year we've seen in a while, at least since 2020.
Yeah, it's been a rough year, and it's just the beginning of what's going to be a very long 4-year presidential term, and if the following years are anything like 2025, we better buckle up and be ready.
Yeah, I mean, you and you're actually personal friends with Vice President Kamala Harris going way back before she was Attorney General or Vice President or any of that. And we campaigned for her. We celebrated her ascension to Vice President. We campaigned for her for President, even though you were very clear from day one that you didn't like the shortened calendar that she had to work with. And we spoke about the perils of a Trump administration and Project 2025. But to be honest with you, for me, they're going a lot harder and a lot more toxic and unconstitutional than I thought they would. I mean, it's way worse than what I imagined.
I think, Dominique, Project 2025 was thought to be so extreme that many of us, me included, could not wrap our brains around a presidential administration that would really try to implement some of the points in that mandate, in that playbook. And here we are. You're right. I think it's a lot harder, and it's happening a lot faster. And I don't know if you feel this way, Dominique, but I feel like the response to it, maybe because it's so much, that the response feels muted.
Yeah, it feels very muted.
I mean, it probably is because every day you don't know what to be outraged about, because there's so much to be outraged about, and eventually, if you're just outraged every day, that outrage, doesn't have much power or much potency.
Right.
And I think that's what we are experiencing.
Yeah. And one of the things when you put it that way that I don't understand why there isn't more outrage about is the bombing of these boats, because we have no proof that those are drug boats. There's been no trial. It's basically just the president or the Defense Department saying we can name you a criminal and then summarily kill you. And that to me is very, very alarming. I don't see why more people aren't freaking out about that.
Well, the Republicans, in a bipartisan move, started an investigation of what's his name?
Hegseth, yeah.
Hegseth,
right.
And abruptly ended it. So, there was some sense that they were going to take seriously their jobs, their oversight jobs, their third branch of government, their co-equal branch of government, and all of a sudden, the investigation into Hegseth just ended without any answers to the questions you just raised that I've been raising. And then you juxtapose that with the pardon of a known drug smuggler. So you have this split screen where you have the president issuing pardons to drug dealers, to folks who've been accused of all kinds of financial crimes, and yet we are, as you said, just arbitrarily targeting Venezuelans, saying they're drug dealers and we can blow up your boats and we can kill whoever survives on those boats.
I mean, we're up to 88 people dead. Those are arguably murders. I don't see, there's no declared war. I don't understand legally how that can stand. You haven't had a trial. You've shown no proof. There's no special order. Like, how is that legal? Attorney Martin, I don't understand it.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not legal. And under any other administration, one, it wouldn't be happening. But two, if it were to happen, they would be called on the carpet. You would hear about not only congressional investigations, but also DOJ investigations. But you have a DOJ that's in the pocket of Donald Trump. And unless Donald Trump declares you a criminal like Tish James or Adam Schiff, you're not a criminal. And in fact, they will defend these actions and say it's just these extreme communist Democrats that are complaining, and now everything is a hoax, like affordability. It's all one big Democratic hoax.
Now,
but let's be clear, it is definitely unconstitutional.
Okay, I mean, that's one of the things that's really got my hair on fire at the moment, because I always feel like they test it out with migrants and foreign countries, and then they start in here. Just like ICE, they started up being masked men rounding up supposed criminals and people, at least people who are here illegally, and now we have citizens being rounded up. And so I think the precedent of just being able to shoot people because you say they're a thing could also end up being visited on us too.
Oh, no doubt about it. And Donald Trump has made it very clear that he will use the power of the military to go after his enemies. He's using the power of the courts. He's using the Department of Justice to target, single out, and to prosecute his enemies. And he will do that using the power of the military as well. He told us this. We knew it was a retribution campaign that he would be on. He named names, right? He did tell us. And I think one thing that's still so shocking to me, he's on this affordability tour, allegedly. Every stop is a 90-minute, tirade, rant about Joe Biden, really is what it is.
Yeah.
Because he says that the affordability issue is a hoax on one hand, but yet Americans are doing better than they've ever, and I keep repeating the word ever because that's what he does, than we've ever done. Really, he has about 5 words, and he repeats them over and over and over and over and over again. But on these, he's on this tour talking about affordability, but he's also still railing against Joe Biden. And they asked some Republicans who went to this last speech, and one woman said he's the best president that we've ever had. And they cherry-picked some information, and the information was that gas prices are lower, and they said that he's lowered gas prices, and he'll get around to lowering food prices and housing prices. Despite telling us on day one he would solve our economic crisis, these people are still willing to support him. Not only support him, they praised him. The woman said he was the best president ever. So trust you, you know this already, but I want to make sure the listeners know this. Uneducated voters are suffering the worst in this economy. And we know that by and large, those are predominantly his voters. So people will vote against their own economic best interest and will continue to support him even as they struggle to purchase groceries, to pay for medical care, to afford housing.
But yet his affordability, but yet his his approval ratings are really down. I mean, he's not polling well right now, so somebody's turning on him, right?
Oh, absolutely. Democrats, independents, and I think there are some Republicans. But there is still a very strong base of his supporters who he controls, who will never step away from him. But that's okay, because there are some good news. Because we did see this year, in an off-election year, we have made some huge gains and have seen some huge victories that, despite all the crazy chaos that this man has created, all the unconstitutional acts that he's engaged in, Democrats have proven that we can rally, that we can stand up, that we can fight back, and that we can win.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we barely got to talk about those wins. We should talk about them more today, because, to your point, their flood the zone technique is so strong. Their distraction and shiny object game is so strong that we barely get to talk about our wins before we have more losses to lick our wounds from. Attorney Areva Martin is my guest, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
I got the champagne. Everybody can laugh.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates our own Keith Underwood, host of the weekend entertainment show Black in the Green Room, on his recent honor at the annual National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Keith received the First Place Award, presented by the Los Angeles Press Club, for his entertainment reporting, and we couldn't be prouder. Congratulations, Keith, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Kohl's Customer Appreciation Event is here, right in time for the gift exchange. Even though everyone pretends gifting isn't a competition, it kinda is. At Kohl's, save on gifts everyone will fight over. From sweaters and flannels to air fryers, toaster ovens, and more. Because deep down, the gift exchange isn't just about giving. It's also about winning. Shop Kohl's and save on top gifts now. Select styles, some exclusions apply. Offers end December 14th. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Nugget bells, nuggets all the way.
Hi, I'm Kylie.
I'm John.
And I'm Garrison.
And a little thing we love about the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets
is sharing them when we cut down the Christmas tree.
We will pack the car with gifts, and of course, we go and pick up our family's favorite nuggets.
Every nugget is tasty times quadrillion.
And we get all the sides.
Yeah, the ooey gooey mac and cheese is a big hit.
Share the nuggets, share the joy. Order the 30-count Chick-fil-A nuggets on the Chick-fil-A app. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with the world. African Focus Incorporated is a community-based organization whose mission is to bring Africans and African Americans together, lead charitable initiatives on the motherland, and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit AfricanFocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or AfricanFocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with attorney Areva Martin. She's also an author. I've got a couple of her books in my house, and I suggest you get a couple of them at your house as well. So we were speaking about affordability and the president's tour and also the Democratic victories. Well, we had a great election results, right? And then, you know, even as recently, what was it, the day before yesterday, we got a Democratic mayor of Miami for the first time in 30 years. There are signs, right? There are signs that that we could be looking at a real landslide for Democrats in the midterm elections. But it seemed like was days, maybe a week after our electoral victories, we got into the government shutdown. You know, that long shutdown, longest ever, and then Democrats caved on the one thing they were supposedly holding out for, which was health care subsidies. We're going to see votes today on 2 dueling, sort of piecemeal solutions, one from the Democrats, one from Republicans, but neither one of them extends the subsidies. So health care costs are going to go up. It seems like Democrats took a serious L on that shutdown because we put the country, Republicans put the country through all this pain, but we participated in it in order to get these subsidies extended and then walked away empty-handed.
Yeah, that was disappointing, Dominique, needless to say. But one thing we know about Congress is that if you don't have the majority votes, you have an inability to get a lot of what's best for the American people done. And as disappointed, I think, as all of us were with the way the Democrats handled the whole government shutdown, I think the votes that we've seen in these off-year elections are speaking loudly and clearly that this country wants to see Democrats back in control. And the question I have is, if we deliver, which it seems like we have the ability to, I just saw a poll that says, going into the midterm elections in 2026, we being Democrats have a 14% advantage. We only need to flip 3 seats in the House of Representatives to win the House back. And the question always is going to be, what do we do if we are successful in winning back the House?
Yeah.
Chances are we won't get the Senate, the 4 seats to get the Senate. It's a little more difficult with the map, but we could thwart and make it very difficult for Donald Trump to do a lot of what he is doing. I don't know if you saw Mark Kelly's response. Senator Mark Kelly did a response to Donald Trump's statement that he be court-martialed, that he be prosecuted, that he actually be executed, murdered for telling folks in the military that they did not have to follow illegal orders. It was a classic clapback where he just juxtaposed what he's done throughout his life as a public servant compared to what Donald Trump has done. So we are seeing from Gavin Newsom to Mark Kelly to so many others who are standing up to Trump, and it's effective because we're seeing the results in some of these local elections from, as you mentioned, the Miami mayoral race, which was historic, a woman and a Democrat. We saw a seat flipped in Georgia, a state where Trump had won by double digits. Albuquerque's mayorship, we were able to keep that in the hand of a Democrat. So we're seeing some significant wins. They do get overshadowed, and you sometimes you got to read down. You have to keep scrolling, right? After all the Trump stories, you have to keep scrolling to find these stories. But that's why shows like yours and this conversation are so important, because we can remind people that Democrats have a chance.
I mean, yeah, Eileen Higgins is a woman now. She's mayor of Miami, or she will become. And this guy, Eric Gissler, flipping a state house seat there in Georgia. Those are good signs. I think many of us thought the rather wide victory of Zoran Mamdani in New York was a good sign for Democrats, particularly the progressive wing of the party, which seems to get the short end of the stick a lot when it comes to the leadership of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, what do you make of? I mean, there are folks who are energized, obviously, by that New York's mayoral race, by this 33-year-old, Democratic socialist who was able to best veteran Andrew Cuomo. There's some who says that this is a good sign for progressive candidates, and there's others who are worried that the centrist part of the party is somehow, coming unglued, and that some of these candidates can't win in general elections. We just saw that, the Tennessee race. I don't know if you followed that very closely. There was a Democratic woman who got within 9 points of a Trump-backed Republican for a congressional seat in Tennessee, which was unheard of, even to get that close. So are you feeling energized by these progressive Democrats, or are you feeling that, their brand of politics may not work when we get into the midterms and definitely 28?
It's funny you
I know
say
it's your
that.
show. You're supposed to be asking me the questions, but
yeah, well, but you're my girl. I'm good with that. But here's the thing: I am energized by it, but I'm also not. I'm not optimistic in some ways, because I just feel that our party has a track record of kowtowing to the corporate Democrats, the centrist Democrats. I have been saying for years that if we would stop trying to co-opt the progressive wing and lean in, that we would win more, because that is where the energy is in the party. The energy is with the Summer Lees, the Zoran Mamdani, the Bernie Sanderses, the AOCs. That's where the energy is. And yet we always want to nerf it. We want to have Biden take some of the policy ideas that come out of the progressive way and then do a half-baked version of it and wonder why people aren't thrilled. The majority of Americans are with universal, healthcare for all.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have a label on it. But why are we always so, here's another question for you. Why are we always so busy kowtowing to trying to bring Liz Cheney into the party rather than activating our base? Young people were excited when Kamala got in. Kamala Harris, and she's not even, I wouldn't call her a progressive. She's not the far left wing of the party. They were energized because it was someone different, someone young, someone, relatable. And I still say we, because I'm still a Democrat, are always chasing these mythical soccer moms that
suburban white women,
right? What is up with that?
Ever show up with the numbers? Part of it, I would have to imagine, is just habit. It's just, sometimes you get in the habit of doing things a certain way, and it's hard to break those habits. Some of it is the big money that are in politics, whether it's Republican politics or Democratic politics. You mentioned Kamala Harris. Remember, she raised $1 billion+ for that 107 days, and that didn't come from everyday working people. A lot of that was, big moneyed folks, and we have a political system that is so broken that is controlled by those handful of donors. Remember, the Democratic donors had their tantrum as Biden was being pushed out of the race, and they, basically shut their pocketbooks and decided until he was resigning from the race that they weren't going to give any more money, and it almost broke, the DNC and broke the Democratic Party. So we Americans have a problem. It makes it more difficult for non-incumbents to beat an incumbent. It makes it more difficult for, a great candidate, but who may not be a great fundraiser, to advance in primaries. So, we're better than Republicans in a lot of ways, but we too are beholden, as you said, to, big corporations and those massive billionaire donors who have become so influential in politics, from local politics to national politics. And until our system is reformed, we're going to have to contend with that. But some good news, you are starting to hear centrist Democrats, traditional mod Democrats, talking in populist language, talking about affordability, talking about working class people in ways that I don't think we did enough of in the last presidential election. I think people are learning something from that beating, that beat down that we had in 24. So hopefully it will continue, and it's not just lip service, it's not just, rhetoric, but there is a real commitment in the Democratic Party to welcoming and embracing the kinds of candidates right now who are having the most success.
Yeah, hopefully so. And, this trend of being able to say working class, maybe soon they'll be able to say low income, poor, under-resourced, instead of just trying to pander to the middle class and the mythical swing voter. Attorney Areva Martin is my guest, and you are listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is shifting gears. She's running for Senate instead of re-election. GOP strategist Vinnie Manchillo says she's betting that she'll be able to win over young voters.
She feels like she could activate a Gen Z bloc to come out and vote for her.
The Texas Democrat faces long odds as no Democrat has won statewide there in more than 3 decades. Martin University will pause operations in Indianapolis, Indiana after this semester. The state's only predominantly black institution cites falling enrollment and financial struggles. And Diana Ross will headline Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve with Ryan Seacrest live from Times Square. She'll perform a medley of hits, joined by Mariah Carey, Post Malone, Chappell Roan, Leon Thomas, and more. Catch it December 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers had some defensive issues last night at Crypto.com against a young and very good San Antonio Spurs team. Without star center Victor Wembanyama, San Antonio still dominated the Lakers for a 132-119 win. The Lakers were down by 20 in the third quarter. Luka and LeBron had productive nights, but it didn't make a difference. Luka finished with a game-high 35 points. LeBron had 19 points, 15 rebounds, and 8 assists. The Clippers are back in action tonight in Houston. The Clippers have only 2 wins since November 14th. Congratulations to WNBA star A'ja Wilson. The Las Vegas Aces Center was named Associated Press Female Athlete of the Year. Wilson led Las Vegas to their 3rd WNBA championship in 4 years. She led the league in scoring and block shots last season, 23.4 points per game and 2.3 block shots. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Celebrate good times.
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Malik Books on celebrating 35 years in business.
It's a celebration.
Malik Books proudly houses one of the largest African American and diverse children's books in the nation. This is the perfect time to pick up holiday reads, meaningful gifts, and to support literacy in our community. For 35 years, Malik Books has stood strong in the Black Book Revolution, uplifting stories that heal, inspire, and transform. One reader at a time. Change your thoughts, change your life. Books are the gift that keeps giving. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, congratulations to Malik Books on 35 years of culture, pride, and community.
If you have asthma, you know that there are certain things that can set off your asthma symptoms. These things are called triggers, and patients with severe asthma have an average of 8 triggers. It could be pollen, dust, pollution, colds, viruses, smoke, or stress. If you know your symptoms, you have already taken the first step to managing your asthma. The next step is to write your triggers down in a notebook or journal and record your symptoms when you come across those triggers. This will give your healthcare provider valuable information about what you can do to help manage your triggers. By understanding your triggers and writing them down, you are on your way to taking back control of your lung health. Visit luma-edu.com for more guidance. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
With the new IHOP value menu, $6 is all it takes to go to your happy place, where stacks of pancakes with bacon and eggs are just $6 every day. French toast, sausage, and eggs are, you guessed it, $6. And fluffy omelets come with a side of pancakes and only cost $6. Go to your happy place every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations. Available every day for a limited time at participating restaurants in the U.S. Hours may vary. No substitutions. Not valid with other discounts or promotions. Prices may vary.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take Dayquil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
We are for you, and we're glad that you're here. 800-920-1580. That's the number if you want to call in. I'm talking with Areva Martin, America's go-to host and commentator on legal political issues. She's also a practicing attorney and an activist and a mom and so much more. So, yeah, we haven't really talked much about it, so let's talk Texas. Attorney Martin, Jasmine Crockett, who is very popular, at least with the media, has jumped into the race for Senate. This after the courts have allowed, the Supreme Court has allowed those Texas maps, which, you know, the racially based gerrymander, they say they're political, not racial. I think they're kind of, it's a low-key admission that those are synonyms that, anyway. Colin Allred, who was running again for Senate, dropped out. And he was a Democrat. He would have faced her in the primary. What do you think of this? Some people are saying it was a setup, that this is a bad look for Democrats, that it's only going to help Republicans. Certainly, Speaker Mike Johnson seemed to think that was, he was, you know, licking his chops when asked about Jasmine Crockett running for Senate.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. It depends, Dominique, on who's doing the asking and who's doing the answering. For a lot of Democrats, they are energized. Jasmine Crockett is a household name amongst particularly those frequent Democratic voters. She is, as you said, a staple, I should say, on cable television, which we know isn't watched widely, particularly by those less frequent voters, but she's built a strong reputation and name for herself, and she's a formidable fundraiser, which also we know is very, very important. And some think that she will be able to energize young voters, independent voters, those, again, infrequent voters. She'll drive them to the polls, and that'll be good for Colin, who is now also running for Congress. And we should note that she's not running for re-election for her congressional seat. That candidate, one of the candidates running for her seat now, is Pastor Freddie Haynes, who is the pastor of one of the largest churches in Dallas, I think 13,000 plus members. He was briefly the president of Rainbow Push, the organization started by Jesse Jackson. So there's been a lot of shakeup in, who's running for what seat in Texas. Now, to your point about Mike Johnson, there are others who say, yes, she'll drive out young voters and she'll drive out those lower propensity voters, but at the same time, that will energize her candidacy, her fighting with Donald Trump, the disdain that Republicans have for her will drive out Republican voters. And in a state like Texas, which is a solidly red state, that she won't be able to overcome just the sheer math in that state. I'm excited about it, to be honest with you. Beto O'Rourke in 2018 came very, very close to beating Ted Cruz in a tough race for Senate in the state of Texas. And we can't win in red states if we don't run. Yeah, and our best chance of winning is running strong candidates like Jasmine Crockett that have a track record, that have high name identification, that can raise funds, and that can energize some base of the party. So these folks that are saying this is horrible, I think they are missing the bigger point here, which is we can and should be trying to make inroads in states like Texas, states like Florida. We just can't concede those states to Republicans. Now, she is running against a young state representative, white Democrat, who's very Christian and who has a very different approach. He's not a firebrand. He is what some call a conciliatory candidate that, reaches across the aisle, and that he has a whole different style than Jasmine Crockett, and that for a lot of Democrats and independents, he's going to be a more preferred candidate. But clearly, Jasmine Crockett is the front runner in that primary race that will happen first. And the question becomes, if she wins that primary, can she win statewide in a state as red as Texas?
She's running against this guy, James Tallarico. I don't know much about him. I know that he put out a statement telling people to be civil and not trash Jasmine Crockett. I do think that she probably will win the primary with her name recognition, her razzle-dazzle, and her fundraising skills. It's not a given, but I think she will. But I don't think she can win the Senate. And you know what? I'm not meaning to be a Debbie Downer, Attorney Martin, but the fact of the matter is I know if I have a friend that lives in Texas who's actually a Republican, a black Republican at that. And he's saying that even before she even got in the race, get rid of Jasmine Crockett is like a big, huge platform for them, for national Democrats, not just for Texas Democrats.
For national Republicans.
For national Republicans, actually, yes. So that means, and I can't see how Trump wouldn't move heaven and earth to keep her out of the Senate should she win that primary, and other conservative Republicans. I think you're right. You got to play. You got to play to win. Just because we haven't won it in 30 years doesn't mean you don't try. But then what happens? She loses. What happens? What happens to her? What happens to Democratic chances? I don't know. That would Allred have a better chance of winning than her because he's less of a target for Republicans?
That's a good question, but Allred ran for Senate and lost pretty handsomely, right. And I don't believe that he can he can't gin up the base, and that's the positive. You're probably right. The math just probably won't work out for Jasmine in the way that it didn't work out for Beto. And Beto was, let's remember, a very charismatic candidate. He was a handsome, young, white guy that could pack stadiums with tens of thousands of people. He raised a ton of money. So he was like the perfect central casting Democratic candidate to run in that state, and he still came up short. So now you compare a Beto O'Rourke to a Jasmine Crockett. You know, she's a black woman. He was a white man. That already, gives her a deficit in the minds of some voters. But if she can energize Democratic voters in Texas and then nationwide, because she'll be going around the country raising money and, talking about her candidacy, it could be a good thing, I think, for Democrats. We're going to need high voter turnout to flip some of these seats. Now, clearly, high voter turnout for Dems also means high voter turnout for Republicans. But one thing we've seen with Republicans, the MAGA crowd in particular, they don't come out if Trump's not on the ballot. That's why we've had some of the wins that we had this year. Some of those voters are Trump voters. They're not Republican voters. So we might win just overall the numbers game because a lot of those MAGA voters, they don't get excited about, the run-of-the-mill Republican race.
Yeah, that's a good point because honestly, his coattails, as they say, have not been as strong as one would think. Even when the president is saying, go vote, they don't always do it. But I do think...
Yeah, he backed a candidate in Miami. Let's make that point. That he was a supporter of a Latino candidate that ran against Higgins in that Miami mayoral's race. He intervened in the New York race. So, I mean, he has a history of intervening in races, and his candidates lose. I mean, he was all over the New Jersey and Virginia governor's races.
True.
I mean, so his involvement doesn't necessarily, mean that his candidate will win. So even we know he's going to play big in Texas, whoever the primary candidate coming out of the GOP side is, but he's not, his track record is probably less than 50-50 in terms of when he weighs in on a race, his candidate winning.
That's a good point. I just think she's become such a symbol. Of course, that hasn't stopped, Congresswoman Maxine Waters from winning. The fact that they make these black women into symbols of hate, it's the same kind of thing that Representative Ilhan Omar is doing. It's a special status of hatred that they enshrine for these black women in politics. And if we're being honest, Jasmine Crockett is not really progressive. I mean, she's pretty much a regular, Democrat.
Well, to your point, we're going to have to learn what Jasmine Crockett is, because I don't think many people know about her other than her, sharp commentary clapping back at Donald Trump. What is her record in Congress? And to your point about being a progressive, I don't think many people know what kind of Democrat she is other than, someone who isn't afraid to go toe-to-toe with the president and trade barbs with him and trade insults with him. So this race is going to be very telling about the kind of Democrat that she is, and whether she energizes young people or not, I think will remain to be seen, because I don't think, again, many young people know where she stands on important issues and those issues that matter to young people. So this is going to be a reckoning of sorts.
The left is going in on her right now, too, which also worries me. She's getting a lot of critique for her positions on Israel. She's getting a lot of critique for her budget, her budget votes and such. And, some of it is not fair, but that's what's happening. So I think she's got it's going to be a tough race. To be clear, though, Attorney Areva Martin, I would rather see Jasmine Crockett in the Senate than any of the Republicans that are running against her by a long shot, moderate or not moderate. Just having her in the Senate would be amazing. We've had how many black women in the Senate?
Oh, my God.
2? Maybe 3. I think it's 3. LaFonza Butler, Kamala Harris, and Carol Moseley Braun. Those are the ones that come to mind.
Well, we have 2 serving now, so let's add those 2. So we have 5 in our history that we can count.
Right. Okay. So 5 total ever. And so that also makes it a heavy lift, but I'd love to see it happen. I think it's a long shot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And her team obviously knows that. And I think your point is an excellent point about how these black women become symbols of hate for Republicans, and it becomes their life mission to take them down. And she obviously is in that category along with our California Congresswoman Maxine Waters and a couple of others.
I think they're moving Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, into that category too. I hope it doesn't stick. I don't think she has quite the level of hate of a. I mean, I feel like Nancy Pelosi was almost an honorary black woman in that level. They hated her at that Maxine
that becomes
Waters
your
level.
calling card, right?
Yeah.
You were hated by Republicans and you're a female. Well, Kamala Harris, we can talk about her book tour if you want, but she had sold out events across this country. I read a stat that said her memoir was the best-selling memoir of the year 2025, selling over 600,000 copies. I actually went to both events that she hosted at the theater here in Los Angeles. Both were sold-out events, and she has been packing not stadiums, but theaters across the country on this book tour for 107 days.
Yeah, there's also been a lot of conversation about should she have thrown folks under the bus, the whole feud with Gavin Newsom and him being constantly asked about the hiking, we'll call you back, and never calling back text. And, there is a lot of, I have not finished it, but I am reading it. And it does seem like I don't know. When I read it, I thought, oh, she's not going to run because she's naming names.
Well, a book that doesn't have some element of, salacious details is not likely to garner a lot of attention and definitely not going to sell 600,000 copies. So I think she was in a position where she had to give up something in order to create an interesting book. But there's a big New York Times article just a couple of days ago where it said, don't count Kamala Harris out, that she has been convening her key strategists, and they've been talking about pathways forward. She started a nonprofit, so obviously being a thought leader and giving speeches and traveling to different cities and states and helping Democratic candidates can be one pathway for next vice president. But the article made it clear that another run for president, given her high name identification, given that she has the list, she has purchased the Democratic donor list, gives her tremendous advantage in any primary for president. So
yeah, I think she is running. To me, it looks like she is running. When I first got the book, I said no, she's not because of the things she was saying in there. But looking at the moves she's been making, I feel like she's clearly running for president. Don't get mad at me, Attorney Martin. I know that's your friend. I wish she wouldn't because I don't think it's a good time for her to run. I wish she could run in 2032 or whatever. I think people are still putting too much of the blame for Biden's moves on her, and she's too closely associated with them in people's minds, and they've had too much time to come up with a strategy to take her down. Not because I wouldn't vote
but what
for
about her. Yeah, and I hear that, I hear that all the time, but I always challenge people to think about the fact that she came so close, not in the battleground states in the electoral votes, but in the popular vote. She garnered, 70 million plus votes, really coming very close to Donald Trump's numbers, and the way that she galvanized young voters, women voters. So I think candidates that have that ability, like she has, like Jasmine Crockett has, are always good for the party. Now, whether they win is a different story, but that's why we're so excited, folks are so excited now about Gavin Newsom because he is galvanizing voters. He's galvanizing the party. So I just tell people, don't underestimate the role that a candidate, a historic figure like Kamala Harris, plays in our politics. And I would love for her to run It's going to be a bruising, brutal primary. We know that.
Yep.
Nobody's going to get a walk-on pass, right? No folks are going to be dropping out like Colin Allred because these white male Democrats, and there's some white, I think Gretchen, from Michigan Whitmer may run as well. So we may see, more white female candidates. We're probably going to have 15 plus folks who throw their names in that hat. And she's going to be automatically, top 2 or 3 just by virtue of having been the vice president, having run a campaign, coming as close as she did to winning, and having raised the kind of money that, no other candidate has raised.
And of course, I'm in that large fringe that believes that the tech oligarchs more than likely cheated, because I don't think it's credible to say that he won every single swing state and that he won even in counties where Republicans haven't won since we were in horses and buggies. I don't buy it, but without the proof, what does that mean? It's my opinion, my mouth to God's ears. Attorney Areva Martin is my guest, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Unwrap LA this winter with Metro. Whether you're heading to a family gathering or last-minute shopping, Metro's got you. Enjoy free rides across Metro on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Move with joy. Move with community this holiday season. Go Metro.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality health care, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Established in 2020 during a time of deep racial unrest across our state and country, the Black Freedom Fund was created to make sure that leaders and organizations working to support Black communities and build power have the resources they need to stay in the fight for the long haul. We believe that those closest to the issues impacting our communities know best how to solve them. That's why in just the last 5 years, we've granted more than $45 million to over 200 grassroots organizations across California. That is the largest collective investment in Black organizing in history, and we're just getting started. We are clear-eyed and committed, more now than ever, to our people, our power, and our possibility. Join us in creating a future where Black people harness their full power to shape their lives and realize a just world for all. Learn more at fundblackfreedom.org. That's fundblackfreedom.org. The Black Freedom Fund is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Okay, well, we only have a couple minutes, so it's not fair of me to ask you this, Attorney Areva Martin, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because I saw that you had a post, a rather succinct and strong post around the Supreme Court taking up birthright citizenship.
Yeah, it's a long and complicated story, and I'll have to come back to talk about it in detail, but it's troubling to me that this Supreme Court, this 6-3 Republican-leaning Supreme Court, has been willing to shred our Constitution and so many of the foundational principles of this country, all in the vein of favoring Donald Trump and advancing his very, I don't even call it conservative policies, his nationalist, play for power. So the birthright citizenship, the fact that that's even up for discussion, again, is one of those we talk about head scratchers when we said we could not have imagined that he was going to go as hard and as fast in this first year. And I want to just quickly correct something I said. I said Kamala Harris got 70 million votes in the 2024 election. I just looked it up to be accurate. She actually got 75 million popular votes to Donald Trump's 77 million, which means she got 48.3% of the popular vote and he got 49.8%. So someone that has won 75 million popular votes surely would be the front runner in any presidential primary, because there won't be anyone else in the Democratic primary that has accomplished that.
Yeah.
So let's not count VP Harris out. Those of who say we don't want her to run, we got to remember she can get votes. She's proven that. Biden got 81 million when he won, so she's up in the stratosphere with those folks who've gotten some of the highest popular votes in our history.
Absolutely, and she's a proven fundraiser too, obviously. Attorney Areva Martin, tell us how to follow you, and not that you need any more followers, but also how to follow the great.
Oh, I need everyone to join this conversation. Yes, please follow me online at Areva Martin. That's on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, and join in the conversation. I love to hear from folks. I was on CNN the other night. Gavin Newsom went to D.C., as you probably know, to meet with FEMA for fire victims, and the president refused to meet with him. The FEMA directors refused to meet with him, and I was debating a Republican about the childish nature of our president and playing politics with people's lives. And this commentator wanted to focus on some alleged loss of $24 billion. He said Gavin Newsom admitted that he misplaced or lost $24 billion in housing, and therefore somehow FEMA was justified in not meeting with him. And, of course, I posted the link, and folks kind of went in on me about that $24 billion. So let's be clear that Gavin Newsom never, ever admitted that he lost $24 billion.
Okay, we got to leave it there, Attorney Martin, because we got 10 seconds till Tavis Smiley, but to be continued. Thank you so much for joining. Tavis Smiley's got a great show. He's next. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is shifting gears. She's running for Senate instead of re-election. GOP strategist Vinnie Manchillo says she's betting that she'll be able to win over young voters.
She feels like she could activate a Gen Z bloc to come out and vote for her.
The Texas Democrat faces long odds as no Democrat has won statewide there in more than 3 decades. Martin University will pause operations in Indianapolis, Indiana after this semester. The state's only predominantly black institution cites falling